Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this channel, Everyday Data Science, is all about trying to learn the various concepts involved in data science by practicing a lot of questions. In this video, I'm going to solve this question on LeetCode regarding find the team size and walk you through how we can develop solutions to such problems. This question has been asked in Amazon interviews over the past couple of years. Okay, so let's jump right in. We are given a table called employee with two different columns, employee ID and team ID, and the data type of both these columns is integer. Employee ID is the primary key for this table, so non-null unique values. Each row of this table contains the ID of each employee and their respective team. Cool. So basically the ID of an employee and the team the employee belongs to. Write a SQL query to find the team size of each of the employees. So basically the employee ID belongs to a certain team, and in that particular team how many employees are there, or basically the team size. So that is what we need to return. The order of the result does not matter. Okay, so let's go through this example. We are given 6 different employee IDs and a few different team IDs, right? So for employee ID 1, employee ID 1 belongs to team ID 8, and now team ID 8 has how many people? So 1, 2, 3. So we need to return for employee ID 1, the team size would be 3. Since 2 and 3 also belongs to team ID 8, so the team size is going to be 3. 4 belongs to team ID 7, and how many people are there in team ID 7? Only 1. This. So 4, 1. For 5 and 6, both belong to team ID 9, and how many people belong to team ID 9? 2. So for 5 you need to return the team size of 2, for 6 you need to return the team size of 2. So that is what is being returned, right? So let's develop this query, but before going into that, there is one way and an easy way to do it, right? But it is a lengthy way. So what you can do is you can make another table where you can group by the team ID and then count the employee IDs, right? So when you group by team ID, so for 8 it will count 3, for 7 1, for 9 2, and things like that, right? And then you can join that table to this employee table on team ID, because when you are grouping by, you are going to have a team ID column in the second table, and here you also have team ID. So when you join it on team ID, so it will see, okay, so team ID 8 here, in that other table team ID 8, how many like what was the team size? 3. So it will include here. Similarly for 7, similarly for 9, and things like that. So that is one way. Now in this video, let me show how we can use window functions to do this in just 2 or 3 lines. So instead of doing a group by, making an entirely different table and then joining and things like that, there is another way using the window functions which can directly do this kind of stuff. Okay, so from this table called employee, the first thing that you need to return is employee ID, right? So you return employee ID. The second thing is you need to return for each of the employee ID the team sizes. Now, if you just think about it, right? So why the window function works here? So if you think about it, if you arrange this entire table based on team ID, right? So let's say there was another row here with team ID 8. So you arrange it based on team IDs, and so you now have all the team IDs consecutively, right? So 8 8 8 8, then 7 and 9 9, and whatever. So now for that, if you make a partition, right? So like partition by team ID. So you make the partition that, okay, so wherever the team ID is same, you take that and leave the rest. So 8 8 8 in this example. So make this a partition. Then 7. Since there is no 7 repeated, so another partition would be this part, right? So this one row. Then the partition 3 would be these 2 rows. So similarly doing that. And then once you have the partitions, you just count the number of employees. So this makes sense. So let's do it the same way. So how do you write a window function? You include the over clause. So over, and then in there, the first thing that what we did was arrange this entire thing by team ID. And how do you arrange things in SQL? You use order by. So order by team ID. So now everything would be ordered by team ID. Then what did you do? You partitioned. So remember, partition comes before order by in the syntax. So you need to write partition by, and by which column you are partitioning by? You are again partitioning by the team ID only. So wherever the team ID is same, include all those rows in the same partition. So you partition by team ID. And then what do you need to do? Once you have created the partition, you just count the employee IDs. So such functions are written outside the window function, right? So you count the employee ID, right? And why I didn't write distinct employee IDs? Because since it was mentioned employee ID is the primary key of this table, so it is like by default going to be unique, right? So the thing is, this is how the window function works. So you order by, you partition, and then you count. This is the syntax of a window function, like whatever you want to do, and then you include an over clause. So it is going to be there, and wherever you see an over clause, you assume that this is a window function. And this is going to return that, right? And now since the final thing that we need to return is that the column name should be team size, so you just alias it as team size, right? And yeah, this looks good. Let's go ahead and run this and see if this works or not. Okay, so this is accepted. Our output is as same as expected output. Let me submit and see if it passes all the test cases. So yeah, it passes all the test cases. It is accepted. So you see, this is how this can be done. There was another way of doing it which involved group by, but that is the advantage of partition by or the window functions, that instead of doing that grouping kind of things, you can simply write it and make the partitions and do whatever you want to do based on that, instead of doing grouping by, making another table. Because if you make another table, you perform join, you are basically including a lot more steps, and therefore the execution time is going to increase. So this is a more efficient way of writing the same thing to get the same result. So yeah, let me know if you guys found this useful, and I will see you guys in the next video.